I don't know. I got morbidly curious and I clicked something, and I it's just fucking it's gross. It's gross, and I'm sorry.
Yep, that's right. We're gonna dive headlong into the minefield that is the Atrioc Deepfake situation. It's a little weird because I actually followed Atrioc's YouTube channel, and the guy is actually really good at what he does, mostly marketing and video game content. But man, I bet he sure wishes that he was only a YouTuber, since his Twitch stream seems to have completely destroyed his career. That's right, Atrioc has gone dark on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. But what happened? Well, every so often a streamer forgets to close a tab and leaves something open that they really don't want leaked. Usually it's stuff like their DMs, email, etc. Stuff that really isn't that big of a deal to leak, but is still a massive inconvenience. Then there's the people who accidentally leave adult content open while they're streaming and leak that. Usually that's just an embarrassing scenario, but there's never really any more to come of it than a Twitch ban. Still, I know that there are streamers who have a completely different PC for when they're looking up anything personal or adult themed. Honestly, a good call. Using a different PC would have saved Atrioc from falling into one of the worst leaks I've ever seen. Nude deepfakes of other streamers. That's right, Atrioc had apparently been looking at nude deepfakes of other streamers. Maya and Pokimane, it seems like specifically. He, for whatever reason, forgot to close out of the tab before going live on his Twitch stream, and used an Alt-Tab or whatever to switch windows, pulling up the fairly explicit tab into the stream window for his entire audience. I'm not going to name the site that he was on in this video because I don't really want to spread this degenerate media. But I've seen people claim that the site was paid, meaning Atrioc would have had to have purchased those photos. Now, I'm not going to verify that myself, for obvious reasons, and it's still weird even if it wasn't a paid site, so whatever. Now for a second, just think about the scenario he just found himself in. He accidentally showed deepfakes of other streamers, and while the streamer to streamer dynamic isn't exactly like being coworkers, it's pretty close. Not to mention that he actually knows these women in real life. That is fucked on so many levels that I can't even really describe it in words. What's even worse about it is that by leaking the tab, which had the site's name visible, Atrioc accidentally spread the website to people who would not have known it existed before then. So everything about what he did is what I would call literally one of the worst possible things you could have ever done on stream. I mean, if streaming was a real job, he'd have been fired pretty much immediately. However, weirdly, it seems like despite the public anger at this, he didn't even get banned on Twitch. But before we take a look at his apology, let me just ask you to hit that subscribe button if you enjoy my content. It really helps me out, thank you. So yeah, the situation is so fucked. I bet you think that it can't get any worse, don't you? Well, let me ask you, what would the appropriate response be? Did you answer, do a crying apology stream while your wife sits behind you and cries as well? No? Well, congrats. You would have responded to this better than Atrioc did. To give him credit though, I can't imagine the state of mind that the guy must have been in. He's got to be embarrassed, seems to have ruined friendships, and possibly ended his own career in one simple but stupid mistake. He must have been absolutely panicked. And so, with that in mind, let's take a look at his apology.
You know, I've been watching so much fucking, I've been reading so much fucking AI stuff. I'm reading all this fucking stuff about AI and fucking deepfake music, deepfake art, and everything. And I'm in these fucking discords, and I just feel so embarrassing of me. But I was on fucking Pornhub, dude. I was on a fucking regular ass normal fucking website, and there was an ad. There's an ad on every fucking video for this fucking, so I know other people must be clicking it because it's on every fucking video for fucking deepfake thing. And then I click it and I'm fucking in this fucking rabbit hole, and at 2 a.m. I don't know, I got morbidly curious and I clicked something, and I it's just fucking, it's gross. It's gross, and I'm sorry. I really am. I really fucking am. It's not, I don't know. It's so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. But I just really want to get across. It's not like a fucking pattern of behavior, and I don't know what I want to say or not. But
honestly, it's almost hard to watch. You almost feel bad for him. Keyword being almost. He's obviously super embarrassed and sorry. But sorry for what? Sorry that he got caught? To be honest, I think that's kind of a cop-out. It's pretty obvious that he knows that he messed up. I mean, look at this face. This is the moment you realize you really messed up bad. But the problem with doing this kind of apology is, number one, the optics are awful. I mean, why is his wife there, just behind him, crying? If she was there for support, she should have been off camera. But the thing that really makes this apology really, really awful is that the apology itself led to the incident actually being noticed. Clips from this stream went viral on Twitter, for obvious reasons. a man with his wife sitting behind him with both of them crying while he apologizes for looking at adult images. The apology went so viral that even people who would have never heard of what he had done became aware of it, which inadvertently became essentially a giant billboard telling random internet people that there were deepfakes of their favorite streamers out there. Basically, while he might have been good intentioned with the public apology, it was the worst possible thing he could have done. Some of the women who were featured on the deepfake website got harassed, with at least one, who I won't name out of respect that they don't want to be reminded of it, having people send her the deepfaked photos of herself. Now, to be clear, deepfakes are not real images. It's essentially just slapping someone's face, and sometimes their voice, onto a clip or photo of another person. Sometimes the source image is AI generated, sometimes it's not. And it's not always used for adult media. Sometimes it's used in memes, and sometimes it's used in more serious ways, like a Russian deepfake of the Ukrainian president that told the soldiers to lay down their arms and surrender, which happened last year. Deepfakes are fake. It's in the name, but that doesn't really matter all that much. If nude photos of you are readily available because someone deepfaked you, that can cause career damage, people not wanting to work or hire you, it can cause damage to your personal relationships, and it can cause mental damage as well. I mean, well, there are programs that can detect some deepfakes. It's not like the layman is going to know how to use them, or even want to, once they see what comes up in a Google search of your name. Even if it was detected as a deepfake, some people wouldn't believe you, and that's going to follow you for the rest of your life. It's incredibly messed up. What's worse than those direct consequences of the images being shared is the fact that you now have to live knowing that people might have seen them. Like everyone you meet, for at least a while after they're made public, you're going to question if they saw the pictures. And on top of that, you'll have to worry about whether or not they actually know they are deepfakes on top. Stuff like this can cause serious harm. Honestly, it's got to be some kind of harassment. And now, because Atrioc made such a big deal with his apology, it's spread around. And there are lots of streamers and YouTubers who will have to deal with those consequences. I realize Atrioc was probably not in the best state of mind at the time, but come on, that's gotta be the obvious result of your actions. Personally, I don't really like the whole idea that when a content creator messes up, they have to apologize to their audience anyway. I think it ends up making everything a bigger deal than it has to be. And this apology is perhaps the best example of that I've seen. With the benefit of hindsight, I think the obvious correct response would be to reach out to the creators who he showed images of in private and apologize to them directly. They're the ones who were actually harmed in this situation. Explain to them that you don't want to do a public apology because you don't want to draw more attention to the fact that the images are out there. Then maybe a quick 1-minute explanation at the start of your next stream saying you apologized in private, and then take a break from streaming for a while. I mean, in that scenario, sure, his reputation still becomes mud, but it saves a lot of female streamers the harm of finding out not only that these images are out there, but also that everyone knows about it now at the same time. The only real good thing to come out of this situation is that the website has been shut down rather quickly. I imagine the dude running it got quite a few cease and desist letters, but this has all started a debate. Should selling deepfake adult photos of people be illegal? I think the answer is quite obviously yes. I think that deepfaked adult photos or videos really should fall under some kind of revenge adult movie law because of the effects that it can have on people both professionally and personally. Now, I do think that there are other legal avenues that someone can already go down to have these kinds of images removed, especially when they're causing harm to their career or to other business deals. Certainly, I'd think you could make the case that it's defamation. I do think that banning deepfaking in general would be a step too far though. To be clear, I mean that it should be illegal to produce, share, sell adult deepfakes of people. However, a lot of the tools that exist, which are able to detect deepfaked images and videos, are open source and developed based on the programs used to develop the deepfakes. Like I said earlier, deepfakes can be very serious, like the one that the Russians used of the Ukrainian president near the beginning of the war, or even something just as simple as a fake voice clip of the president saying something stupid. There's an arms race between developing ways to detect deepfakes and a way to generate them. Bad actors will always keep acting bad, no matter what the law says. So we really need to keep the tools to be able to detect deepfaked images. And the only way to keep those tools available is to keep the deepfake software available. So basically there is no good solution except that we, as a society, become more aware that deepfakes exist and stop believing everything we see and hear on the internet. You've probably heard the quote, "Seeing is believing," right? Well, that actually leaves out half of the original saying by Thomas Fuller, which was, "Seeing is believing, but feeling is the truth." We will need to stop believing what we see and rely on our feelings, the vibes, if you will, to determine whether or not we should actually think what we are seeing is real. It's a dystopian future, but it's coming sooner than any of us will be ready for. At least for most of us, this future hasn't been realized like it was so recently for the girls on that site. I hope they're doing okay. Quickly, before we go, I just wanted to mention that Atrioc did publish a full apology on his Twitter as well, and I'm going to link that in the description if you want to read that. Anyway, that's all I have. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Remember to like and subscribe. Have a great day, and God bless you.